Cory Booker didn't come into this hearing to spar. He came to draw a line. And the moment he started speaking, you could feel exactly where that line was and who he believed had crossed it. His voice wasn't raised, but the weight behind it made the entire room feel smaller. Because what he laid out wasn't a disagreement, it was a pattern, a warning, and ultimately a challenge to a man sitting right in front of him.
In 2018, Mr. Bove, a group of federal criminal defense attorneys and former SDNY prosecutors in Manhattan were so alarmed by your pattern of unethical conduct that they wrote your supervisors at SDNY to warn them about you. I'd like to enter into the record a letter that I sent to Acting U.S. Attorney Jay Clayton of SDNY requesting more information about any internal or external complaints about you as a prosecutor. The letter contains the full text of that 2018 email from lawyers in which they describe you, and I'm quoting here, they describe you as, quote, vindictive, always looking for leverage and power, a prosecutor version of a drunk driver, completely reckless and out of control, quote, needing adult supervision. One attorney said that you, whatever due justice is supposed to mean, it doesn't apply to Bove. A former federal prosecutor who later litigated against you said what Mr. Bove enjoyed most as a prosecutor was wielding power, a quality they described as the single worst possible trait for a public servant. Now, I read these because they're important, that these complaints are not an attempt to derail your nomination. This is from 2018, person after person. These complaints come from attorneys who practiced in federal court, some former federal prosecutors, warning a U.S. attorney's office that one of their prosecutors was, quote, a real recurring problem, and that you were not representing the office in a way that they thought the office would want it represented. Your conduct was so beyond the pale back in 2018 that they wrote your supervisors to say you were a liability for the office. I think this is important because it shows a pattern of behavior. The allegations align with reports about your abuse of power now at the DOJ. I want to follow up in this pattern with what Senator Durbin's questions about the mandatory Teams meeting you scheduled for all remaining public integrity section attorneys on February 14th, 2025. We already know that you're refusing to tell this committee whether you talked to Stephen Miller or others at the White House. All the chiefs and supervisors had resigned at this point, so all of the remaining and available attorneys were line attorneys in that meeting. Is that correct? Approximately 20 attorneys were on the team's call.
I do hope, Senator, that at some point I'll have an opportunity.
You were trying to find two attorneys to sign a motion to dismiss the Adams case without prejudice. Is that correct?
Yes.
During the meeting, you told attorneys that it is their job to implement the president's agenda and that they have to follow orders from the president and that there's no room for dissent in the chain of command. Is that correct?
No.
You told them that they had 1 hour to find two attorneys to sign the motion. They weren't allowed to ask questions. Is that correct?
No.
You started the meeting by emphasizing to the line attorneys that Danielle Sasson and Hagan Scott had failed to follow orders and that Ms. Sasson was going to be reassigned before she resigned, correct?
I'm sorry, I didn't understand the last part of that question.
I will state again. You started the meeting by emphasizing to the line attorneys that Danielle Sasson and Hagan Scott had failed to follow orders and that Ms. Sasson was going to be reassigned before she resigned. Is that correct?
No.
Okay. You also told them that whoever signed the motion would, quote, emerge as the new leaders, end quote, of the public integrity section for doing so, correct?
I don't recall saying that.
So you don't know if you said that or not?
I don't recall saying that.
Edward Sullivan volunteered to sign the motion. As promised, Sullivan was promoted to acting chief of the Public Integrity Section for dismissing that case. Is that correct?
No.
So you are saying that as the leader of the DOJ, you don't know who is in charge of public integrity?
No, I'm saying that the causal relationship that you implied in your question is not accurate.
Okay. We have you on the record on all of those points. You worked on January 6th cases while a prosecutor at the SDNY, correct?
A supervisor, yes.
An FBI agent described you as treating the January 6th cases as a priority when you were prosecuting those cases. But then you fired dozens of prosecutors and 8 senior FBI officials working on the case. Is that correct?
No.
So, Mr. Bove, I am hoping that more evidence is going to come out that showed that you lied before this committee. And I'm wondering where the lines are for you. What's the line in the sand when you wield awesome power of government? What is that line for you? Because clearly lying to a court isn't a red line. Referring to follow court or refusing to follow court orders isn't a line. Doxing judges and government officials isn't a red line. Intimidating attorneys you supervise into doing things they believe is unethical is not a line. So what's your red line? I really wonder. What could the president ask you to do that you wouldn't do? What wouldn't you do to win? A judge has to uphold core values and principles: independence, impartiality, integrity, diligence. A judge must be free from undue influence. A judge must decide cases fairly without prejudice or favor. A judge must ensure that anyone who appears before them in court will get a fair shake.
Thank you, Mr.
Everything
Booker.
we're hearing you say makes me believe that you're incapable of that. The pattern didn't just begin when you were nominated by this president. Peers of yours, prosecutors, attorneys who served with you, and judges in your past year have again and again cited you as someone who is not capable or qualified of doing this job in which you're nominated for. Thank you,
Ms.
Madam
Britt.
Chair.
Mr. Bove, thank you so
Booker
much for
opens
being
by
here.
pointing to something that didn't happen yesterday or last month, but years ago, long before this nomination, long before this political moment. He reads from a letter written by federal criminal defense attorneys and former prosecutors, people who worked directly with Emil Bove, people who say they saw the same behavior back then that the Senate is accusing him of now. Words like vindictive, reckless, and in need of adult supervision. These aren't political attacks. These are professionals raising alarm bells. And Booker's message is clear. If multiple people across multiple years from multiple institutions all say the same thing, maybe the problem isn't the politics. Maybe the problem is you. Then he shifts, not to the past, but to the moment that brought Bove to this hearing, the February 14th mandatory meeting, the pressure, the orders, the push to dismiss the Adams case, the accusations that he tried to turn career attorneys into instruments of the president's agenda. And Bove denies each one, line by line, almost mechanically. But this is where Booker does something powerful. He isn't interrogating facts anymore. He's interrogating character. He's drawing a picture of someone wielding government power like a weapon, someone treating a prosecutor's job like a loyalty test rather than a sworn duty to the law. And then he says the line that stops the room. I am hoping that more evidence is going to come out showing that you lied before this committee. That's not a question. That's not speculation. That is a United States senator saying, on the record, that he believes this nominee isn't just wrong. He believes he's dishonest, he believes he's dangerous, and he believes the truth will catch him. From there, Booker raises the bigger question, the one that transcends this hearing. What is your red line? Because if lying to courts isn't a red line, if refusing court orders isn't a red line, if intimidating attorneys isn't a red line, if pushing prosecutors to follow a political agenda isn't a red line, then what is? And the silence in that moment speaks louder than anything Bove has said. Booker ends not with anger, but with something far heavier. A reminder that judges exist to protect integrity, impartiality, independence, to ensure that people get a fair shake no matter who they are, no matter what politics are in the background. And he tells Bove to his face that everything he has seen, everything he has read, and everything he has heard makes him believe that Bove cannot and will not uphold those core principles. This wasn't a clash. This wasn't an argument. This was a moral indictment, delivered directly, calmly, and unflinchingly. And the message was unmistakable. If you cannot draw a line, you cannot be trusted to judge anyone else's. Moments like this matter because they force the country to confront what's at stake when power is placed in the wrong hands. A judge isn't supposed to follow a president. They're supposed to follow the Constitution. And today, Cory Booker made it painfully clear that principle is on trial. If you want more breakdowns like this, the moments where the truth cuts through the noise, make sure you're subscribed. Drop your thoughts below. Do you think Booker went too far or not far enough?